Department of Sports Science and Yoga. So I've been working with the aspects of this brain functionality in the yoga, and yeah, my area of specializations is on cognitions, neuro-physiological correlates of different cognitive features, and I'll try to look on how this can be is related with these mind-body practices. Besides this, I have also been working in the area of pain perception, looking at the neural organization in the brain in chronic pain. So these are my areas, and I've been working specifically with these non-invasive imaging techniques as well as electrophysiological techniques like EEG, and also been doing the fMRI, MRI.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think our interest match a lot. So I think we will have a very interesting interactions during this presentation.
Yeah, I look forward to it, surely.
Good evening. Myself, Dr. Arnab Das. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Sports Science and Yoga. Particularly, my area of work is exercise physiology, and currently I'm working the physiological aspects of yoga. During particular yoga, what are the different acute responses occurs in that domain we are working, particularly the cardiorespiratory and metabolic responses.
Wonderful.
Dr. Bhargava. I am Dr. Manohar Kumar Pahan. Here I am working as an assistant professor, and my area of work is sports psychology and the psychological factors that affect the sporting performances.
Wonderful. Very nice.
My name is Dr. Shubhadeep Pal. I am also an assistant professor at this university. So basically, I work on computational neuroimaging. So human brain imaging I am interested in. So using different computational method, I basically investigate how brain structure functions, the alters in mental disorders, and how they are related to symptoms. That's the overview of my work. And very nice to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you. Very nice to meet you.
Apart from this cohort, there are two more faculty members. And so you can see all of us, you can meet all of us. Our labs are also now revived. So it will be good if you can pay a visit.
Yes.
Anyway, we are really glad to have you. Just you returned from Brazil yesterday, and you are here for the talk today. So let me begin this today's session by introducing you to the audience.
Yes.
Today, the 14th of June 2023, in the webinar series Science of Pranayama, we have amongst us Dr. Hemant Bhargava from NIMHANS, Bangalore. I take this opportunity to introduce Dr. Bhargava to the learned audience of this webinar. Dr. Hemant Bhargava is currently working as assistant professor in the Department of Integrative Medicine at NIMHANS, Bangalore. He holds a degree in medicine and diploma in community mental health with MD and PhD in yoga therapy. He worked as assistant professor of yoga therapy in SVIASA for 6 years after his MD. After that, he joined NIMHANS as senior scientific officer in the Integrated Center for Yoga. And since the last couple of years, he is in the Department of Integrative Medicine, working as an assistant professor. His research area is in yoga therapy, Ayurveda, integrative medicine, and its applications in the field of mental health and neurosciences. He has more than 70 peer-reviewed research publications and 2 books. He has been awarded the prestigious Wellcome Trust India Alliance CPH Early Career Fellowship in 2021. He received multiple grants from the Government of India. Currently, he has 2 ongoing funded projects, one from DST Satyam and one from DST CERN. He is also the advisor to UGC under Research and Academics Task Force for the Inter-University Center of Yogic Sciences, Bangalore. So thank you, Dr. Bhargava, for delivering this talk today. And we look forward to your talk. So you can please begin your talk. You can also share your slides as you require.
Thank you for your kind introduction, Swamiji. So, dear friends, I was, very interested in this particular symposium because of the topic. I think Swamiji has chosen an apt topic. We see, that globally, when yoga began, the understanding of yoga was that it is mainly related to some physical postures. Now, recently, I was in Brazil, and the overview over the years, has now changed. It was considered as one of the workout activities, especially in the Western countries. But now, slowly, as the human beings over the globe are evolving, they are also, touching the other dimensions of yoga, the more subtler dimensions of yoga. So I see a renewed interest, especially in the last 5 years, in pranayama. If you look at the research that is getting published in this area also, that there is more and more research, and people are trying to explore the mechanisms further and its clinical applications further. So in today's talk, what I'm going to do is, in the initial aspect of my presentation, I will look at the philosophical understanding of pranayama. Then we will look at the modern scientific mechanisms through which it may act, especially, on the brain. So before we begin, it is very important that we understand the basis, from which these techniques emerge. So our wealth of knowledge fundamentally comes from Vedas. Atharva Veda gives us the knowledge of Ayurveda, whereas the first mention of the word yoga, was there in Rig Veda. But definitely the whole Vedic philosophy, the Upanishads, is anchored in yoga. Both these systems of medicine understand the creation, both physical and mental, as the gross and subtle manifestations of these 5 basic elements. They are also called as Panch Mahabhutas. Now, these 5 basic elements are there within the human system, and they are there also outside in the environment. These forces, they combine together to give rise to 3 functional entities. They are the physiological entities that govern the functions of this universe and also the functions within this body and mind. Air and space combine to form Vata, and their mental counterpart is called as the Rajas. Fire and water combine to form Pitta, and water and earth combine to form Kapha. So fundamentally, Vata is the movement principle. It leads to all the activities, all the movements within the body, and the movements of thought in the mind. The opposite of air and space is water and earth. They are heavy, they carry mass, they are difficult to move, they provide stability. So Kapha is the stabilizing principle. Now, between movement and stability, you need a regulator, a metabolizer. Pitta is the metabolizing factor. So in this way, in the mind also, we have the activating kind of thoughts and emotion. We have the calming or, suppressing kind of thought and emotion, and we have the act of balancing the two. Now, another dimension, this is the dimension of creation, but then I spoke to you that fundamentally these 5 basic elements, grossly we can see them through our eyes, but they are just not existing in the gross sense. They also have their subtler aspects. So Taittiriya Upanishad provides this particular model known as the Panchakosha model, where the physical existence is known as the Annamaya Kosha. Now, the yellow color layer here is the topic of our interest. It is called as the Pranamaya Kosh. And the red layer here is called as the layer of emotions, the Manomaya Kosh. Green one is the layer of insight or discriminative ability of the intellect, the clarity in thoughts is the Vijnanamaya Kosha, and then the blue layer is called as the Anandamaya Kosha, the layer of bliss. These layers are more expanded, but inside the human being, they are more and more subtle. So the second layer of prana is considered as present throughout the human body and also a few inches around the human body. So the yogic texts say that chale vate chale chittam, nischale nischalam bhavet. That when the thought moves, when the breath moves, the thought moves in the mind. When the breath stops, the thought in the mind also come to a standstill. So there is an intimate connection of the breathing to my thoughts. And there is an intimate connection of my breathing to this second layer. If you just want to understand, then it is like the tip of the iceberg. You can see over the water, but below that there is a huge mountain. In the same way, the tip of this second layer is in the breath. So whatever happens to the breath grossly is a manifestation of something, deeply happening into this second layer. This second layer, called as prana in the yogic literature, is called as the vayu or vata. In the Ayurvedic literature, is fundamentally the life force which is moving the life into the system, governing various physiological processes in the body. The movement of this energy in the face, especially from the face to the chest, the air that we take in, and all the sensory organs and the thought process that go on, that is governed by the main prana known as the Varishta prana, also called as the Mukha prana. Then there is the opposite prana that is going in the downward direction. Its area is from the navel to the feet. That downward moving prana governs all the activities that are happening with gravity: urination, defecation, parturition, menstruation. All those activities are governed by the apana prana, the downward moving prana. Then the anti-peristaltic activity, where say you vomit or you have a belching, or when the yogic texts say that when the body dies, the sukshma sharira, the subtle body, leaves this body by getting into this upward moving prana, which is known as the udana prana. So the area of that prana is in the throat region. So from the chest to the throat, upward, this prana goes. And there is a central prana lying around the umbilical area, which basically functions in igniting and maintaining the digestive fire and assimilating the food. That is called as samana prana. And then the last prana you see that circulates throughout the body, maintains a circulation throughout the body. This is the prana which is called as the Vyana prana. So yogic text, in the physiology, the way the physiological function happen in different part of the body, attribute it to a particular subtype of the prana. But you have to understand that these are all functional classification. Fundamentally, there is one continuous layer of energy which is there within the body and around the body, a few inches around the body. Now, in terms of physics, where does it come? Is it electric field? Is it magnetic field? EMF? Where does this pranic energy come? So definitely we know that there is electricity in the body, and people have tried to capture electricity in the form of EEG, in the form of ECG. But my understanding, is that based on Prashna Upanishad, which says that this particular layer has its own mind, its own capacity of expanding and contracting, and it is very intimately connected to the mental processes. I feel that these electric and magnetic radiations, in a way, are an indirect manifestation of this layer, but this particular layer is even subtler than them, and it is very intimately connected to the mind. if you really go deep in meditation, you can feel, some energy vibrating, it pulsating, it is pulsating, and when people do certain aspects of pranayama, they can feel that. In general, imagine that sometime in the morning you get up and it is little cold. You go to the bathroom and you take cool water in a jar and you pour it onto your feet. Especially when you are not, your skin is bare, you may see something on the surface of the skin running upwards. As you pour water on your feet in cold morning, something on the surface of the skin runs upwards. That is in a way, a very subtle understanding of this pranic layer, which is on the surface. We do some pranic energization technique where we rub our hands, and after rubbing, when you try to rotate it clockwise, anti-clockwise, you feel certain sense of energy, and the hands try to, pull each other together with a force. You find it difficult to separate the hands after that. So there are certain techniques to charge this particular layer. Now the whole question comes is, why is it necessary to explore this particular dimension? What are its clinical applications? So yogic text, they say that all the illnesses that a human being has developed on the body, Yoga Vasishtha says that there are only two causes. One is the cause that is in the Annamaya Kosha outside the body. So accident, injury, snake bite, poisoning, sunstroke, drowning, all those are the reasons of 5 basic elements, electrocution, all these are the causes. Infections, where there is a cause outside, a specific cause outside. Such kind of illnesses, they say, can be treated by specific agents that also come from outside. So in that sense, modern science has progressed very well, because modern science did external engineering. And in this external engineering, we have conquered all the 5 basic elements. We can, go in this space. We have gone up to the Mars. We can fly. We can drill into the earth. We are building tunnel into the oceans. We can swim faster than any other animal that lives in the sea. So all those things human being is able to achieve over the external environment, the kind of a mastery over these 5 basic elements, is because our whole focus, our energy was doing science and technology externally. But when it comes to the inner world, we are still, lagging behind. We are still that ancient man. Probably they were even better than us. We have lost that knowledge. We do not understand the science and technology of my inner being, my energies, and therefore I do not know how to manage myself, my emotions, my intellect, my breath, my body, my digestion. In this sense, the text says that for a disease caused due to an external cause, external agents work. And because the whole modern medicine has developed as an engineering, as a technology exploring outside, you have specific antidotes for poisons, you have specific antibiotics for bacteria. Any injury or accident happen, you can, do life-saving procedures. Yes, there is, you cannot replace modern medicine here. But then the text says that there are other causes for diseases that happen on the human body, and that cause is when there is no external cause. Any illness, the text says that any illness where you cannot pinpoint a single external cause, you have to automatically assume that the cause is internal. Now, when you say the cause is internal, then you have to see that the cause is not in the Annamaya Kosha. Probably the cause can be in the Pranamaya Kosha, or the cause can be in the Manomaya Kosha, the mental layer or the pranic layer. So when the cause lies deep, all our major problems, essential hypertension, hypothyroidism, diabetes, different kinds of cancers, coronary artery disease, even, the metabolic disorders, you can see that there is no pinpoint external cause. You can say there are lifestyle factors, but they do not affect everybody, you know. So there is something unique that happens within me. Even if the genes are there, they should express, you know. So those epigenetic transformations that take place are unique to a human being. And the text says that it is happening due to a specific internal cause. Now, this root internal cause is a disharmony, deep-rooted, you know, unresolved emotional conflicts that lead to imbalance in the flow of the pranic energy, in the sense that in certain areas it overflows and in certain areas it gets blocked. Prana is a life principle. Wherever prana goes, you become more aware of that part. That part becomes more sensitive. And depending on which kind of emotions dominate, prana starts moving in those particular areas of the body. So one example that I can give is, you know, a person who has asthma, you know, his airway tract become excessively sensitive. The pollen grains, which are harmless, the cool air, which is harmless, generates coughing reaction in this person. Now, it is a physiological reaction. According to yogic philosophy, this cough of asthma is coming because of excessive overactivity of the prana in the chest region. So the prana is excess, it leads to sensitivity. And this hypersensitivity of the airways is being looked as asthma. Now, this hypersensitivity of the airways is happening because for months and for years together, you know, there has been a kind of an unresolved emotional conflict, which is not allowing the prana to flow freely into the body. So therefore, there are, you know, wealth of literature that says that these pranayama practices, especially slow pranayama practices, the anulom vilom, you know, nadi shuddhi pranayama is so effective, you know, in turning the asthma attacks and bringing resilience into the respiratory system, reducing its hypersensitivity. So in this way, you know, we look at the pranic layer and try to bring internal corrections. So this is, you know, one of my favorite slides, where Katha Upanishad provides this parable of a chariot. The 5 horses are the 5 sense organs. The reins through which these horses are held by the intellect is the mind. And this is the domain, you know, which is also the domain of the breath. The reins, the senses and the breath are also very intimately connected, and breath is very intimately connected to the mind. And by mind, I mean emotion as well. So the intellect is the one which, you know, very delicately tries to control this. Sometimes it has to tighten it, sometimes it has to loosen it. And there is a fellow sitting behind, which is consciousness. The non-yogic lifestyle is a lifestyle where the horses become the most powerful force in life, which drags the mind, drags the breath, drags the intellect, and therefore the chariot goes haywire. You know, the senses become the dominating force in life. But yogic lifestyle is tataha pratyak chetanadhigamo antaraya abhav. It is pratyak chetana. It says that you have to turn inwards. No, you have to go into the deeper layers of the Vijnana Anandamaya Kosha, and you have to move towards your consciousness and follow its direction, his direction, to guide this chariot. So into this aspect, you know, the pranayama plays a role where it brings indriya jaya. It is mentioned in yogic text that pranayama and pratyahara together, they, because you close your sense organ and do pranayama, they bring these horses in a sort of a control and makes it easier for the intellect to manage them. So this is the particular role that the pranayamas play in the journey of a yogi. So yoga is an ancient way of right living. You know, this is to live in harmony with oneself. You know, my own body, my own energies, my own intellect, emotion. Are they in harmony with each other, or they are in conflict? You know, is my mind fighting with my intellect? You know, and once yoga brings inner harmony, it then brings harmony with the nature also. According to yoga, you know, the word hatha comes from the root ha, which means the sun, and tha means the moon. Fundamentally, all yogic practices aim at aligning an individual's biorhythm. You know, it is not only the physical rhythm, the breath rhythm, the energy rhythm, the emotion rhythm, with that of the nature, the social rhythms, and then the cosmic rhythms. Everything coming into a beautiful alignment is the path of yoga. So here, the right nostril governs the sun energy dimensions, the activating dimensions, and the left nostril governs the calming, relaxing energy dimensions. Now, it is beyond doubt now that there is a specific pathway that I am going to discuss through which, these nostrils can produce very differential effects on the human physiology. So this is all about, we live on the planet Earth, which is between sun and the moon and carries both the kind of effects. It is our human body that has heat and cold both together. And this is how the harmony between the two is done by the pranayama practices. Majority of this domain of harmonizing the energies within us is done by pranayama, by balancing the activating and relaxing forces. So I am talking about the yogic technology of inner sciences. We have conquered the 5 basic elements in the nature, but now we have to attain mastery over the 5 basic elements within this body, their subtler manifestation, tanmatras in the pranic body, and even subtler manifestation in the form of emotions, in the mental body. We have to do that. We have to explore another domain of technology, which is yogic technology. My 5 fingers, they are also representing certain domains of energy in me. So this is fire. The thumb is fire. This is earth. This is sky. This is water. This is water. Earth, fire, earth, sky, and we have water and space. So I think I'm missing one domain. It is fire. It is fire, earth, then water. Water is the little finger. Space is the middle finger. And there is, which one I'm missing? Air, water, fire, space. Water is little. This is space. This is the earth. This is the fire. If you use these different kind of fingers in a certain mudra, you will be able to feel certain changes in the way the breathing happens. We adopt this chin mudra, chinmay mudra, adi mudra while performing the yogic breath, the sectional breathing, vibhagiya pranayama. If you just, do this, just close the thumb and press it down and do deep inhalation and exhalation, you will feel that the air moves more into the upper zone, just below your shoulders. If you adopt the second mudra, like this, the chinmay mudra, it goes in the middle zone. Whereas if you adopt the normal chin mudra, it goes in the lower zone. You can feel it when you do it. So how that happens, how different kind of mudras channelize the energies into different domains of my body, and help me bring a harmony into my pranic layer is very, very interesting domain. In fact, we in our clinics have seen, specific effect of this particular mudra, the mudra for headache, which actually works. We have found that people having headache adopting this kind of a mudra. So the fundamental principle is that whichever finger is up, that particular domain of prana gets activated. So this is fire principle, the upward moving prana, fire moves up, it gets activated. When you press it down or you put it up or you have a specific way to press it, this has an activating and blocking effect of certain aspect of these 5 basic elements of the prana. So in this way, this is yogic inner technology. Of course, you can manipulate your breath. You can do many procedures, to change it from right nostril to left nostril to right nostril. If you lie down on the right side, the left nostril opens up. If you lie down on the left lateral position, the right nostril opens up. Yogis used to carry that T-shaped block with them. You would have seen a T in their hand. They used to fix it in their axilla, like this. And if you do that, it generates an axillary reflex, which leads to the opening of the nasal passage on the side that is pressed. Within few breaths, you can see that if you press the axilla, on that side, the nostril becomes patent and the congestion goes away. So yogis have been using in Hatha Yoga various procedures. In Shiva Samhita and such texts, you find that there is specific mention of doing certain activities when the left nostril is dominant, doing certain activity when the right nostril is dominant. For example, you should eat food, when you are very much calm and relaxed and there is left nostril dominance, because it means that your system is calm, you are relaxed, and you can activate your parasympathetic nervous system and eat food. Similarly, when you have to do a cognitive task, it is better to have a right nostril active because you need the sun, you need the cognizing ability. So in this way, there is a whole domain of technology which is waiting, to be explored and applied in our lives. So these biorhythms attune to cosmic rhythms. Attuned biorhythms lead to improved mental and physical resilience. What is immunity? In my understanding, immunity is not about having very big muscles or abs. No, such people are even now in gym you will see that such people are collapsing because though physically they look very fit, but in their pranic layer their energies are not in harmony. In their mental layer they are not in harmony. So you may be very thin and lean, but you will have great immunity, great resilience if you are in rhythm. If your system, if your inner sciences are in rhythm within yourself and with the cosmos. So certain pranayamas, chanting of Om, Nadi Shuddhi pranayama, do that. They bring harmony within you and attune you to cosmic harmony, which is mental and physical resilience, and carries a lot of application in sports as well. So improved resilience leads to improved social rhythm enhance well-being, and that further brings this positive cycle. So now very quickly I will just go to the yogic texts. One important point is that fundamentally the definition of yoga says that it is a technology for the mind, okay, and our inner well-being. So termination of the agitations of the mind, whatever impressions that are falling on my chitta continuously, how can I purify my chitta, and reflect the consciousness, the purusha in its purity on my chitta. For that is the purpose of yoga, and in that you use breath to cleanse your chitta. So we all know there are these 8 domains, and we are focusing on the 4th limb of yoga, that is pranayama. There are a lot of researches that have happened. These are in general the effects of yoga, not specifically of pranayama. But if you look at all the research that has happened so far, the fundamental effects of yoga, that are produced are: number 1, down regulation of the hypothalamic-pituitary adrenal axis, thereby reducing the stress hormone cortisol. And number 2, increasing vagal tone by, bringing a state of parasympathetic dominance. So top-down approach is through this cortisol and reducing and increasing GABA, that has a calming, relaxing effect, inhibitory neurotransmitter, GABAergic tone. And bottom up, all vagal afferents are everywhere in the body. And all the yogic procedure, even Kapalabhati or such thing where you flap your abdomen and do various breathing, they stimulate the vagal afferents and bring the parasympathetic dominance. And through these, there are clinical applications. Fundamentally, all of these, domains given by Patanjali are aiming at bringing purification to the chitta, the prasannata, calmness in the chitta, mana, indriya, and atma. So Patanjali describes pranayama as tasmin sati shwasa prashwasa gati vichhedah pranayama. Tasmin sati means after that, after sthiram sukham asanam, prayatna shaithilyam, ananta samapatti bhyam, tato dvandva anabhighatah. When one has become still in a posture, completely stabilized, expanded the consciousness, imagining infinity into the mind, ananta samapatti, then one is ready to do pranayama. Before that, not. You cannot say a person, okay, you are going, walking, sitting, you keep on doing, suddenly you sit up and do. No. Tasmin sati. First, you have to stabilize yourself in asana. At least, at least for few minutes, you should sit and just watch your breath. Completely allow your system to stabilize and then do pranayama. Why I'm saying this is because Hatha Yoga Pratipika says that this prana is like a wild elephant. If you regulate it properly, it can do big tasks for you. But if done improperly, it will destroy you. It also gives an example that this pranayama is a lion, which can eat you up. If done properly, can cure all the diseases. Sages, when they are very passionate about describing, if done properly, can cure all the diseases. If done improperly, can give rise to disorders in you. It can become the origin to bring disorder because the cause is internal. So please remember, that the pranayama should be done when you are physically stable for some time. Don't do it in a agitated or restless state, when you cannot sit still anywhere and in any posture. Do not do that. So Shwasa is inhale, Prashwasa is exhale, and stretching, ayama, pranasya ayama, stretching this, how long can I stretch my breath? So the longer you stretch, the slower you breathe, or the longer you are able to stop your breath. There is a relationship with your consciousness. Breath stops, consciousness expands. Breath becomes fast, consciousness contracts. You would have seen, whatever things that bring your attention very strongly onto the body, they generate intense emotions in you, connect you to the body, they make your breath also go haywire. Whereas things that make you very calm, relaxed, expanded, you see that the breath also becomes slow. So yogis go in a reverse way. They say that, okay, if I consciously slow down my breath, stop my breath either in inhalation or in exhalation. Patanjali specifically goes for exhalation. He says, prachardan vidaranabhyam va. Whenever you want your consciousness to expand, breathe in, breathe out, and hold the breath externally. This has been described as one of the abhyasa to overcome the antarayas, the difficulties, of the vyadhi, styan, alasya, all those kind of difficulty that we have can be overcome by exhaling and holding the breath there as long as possible. But before doing this, it is always advisable that you first sit in an asana comfortably for at least 3 to 5 minutes. After that, you do Nadi Shuddhi Pranayama, slow. Try to stretch your breath as long as possible, And your awareness should be on the touch of the air in the nostril, because then only the mechanoreceptors in your nostril will be stimulated, and then they will, through the olfactory bulb, also there will be connections to different areas of your brain. So with awareness on the breath, only thing in the beginners have to do is stretch your breath as long as you can, with complete awareness on the touch of the air in your nostrils. As you are able to stretch it longer and longer, you will be able to stop it, in exhalation, longer and longer. And when you do that, the consciousness expands. So consciousness follows inverse relationship with the rate of breathing in its expansion. Expansion of consciousness is inversely proportional to respiratory rate. So Patanjali says, Tatah kshiyate prakasha avaranam. What happens when the consciousness expands? The third layer becomes thinner. Klesha tanu karanartham. Then what happens? Samadhi bhavanarthascha. Samadhi bhavana comes. The deeper layer of Vijnana Anandamaya Kosha start manifesting as you stretch, as you expand. And when they manifest, you see light. The light of insight, the light of bliss. And with this, you are ready now to turn more inwards, to expand further and get into the domains of Antaranga Yoga. So pranayama is a key, shift between the Bahiranga Yoga to Antaranga Yoga. So this is what I was telling. What happens to your breath when you feel different emotions such as anger or sadness? Anyone? Can anybody would like to say something here? What do you think when you are angry? What happens to your breath?
It increases or it becomes very fast.
It becomes very fast.
And sadness, grief will do the opposite.
It becomes short.
Yes, Rajiv. So we see in some emotions, the breath, in both the patterns, the breath becomes haphazard. It doesn't follow a regular rhythmic pattern. But in anger, you see that it also becomes fast, but it also becomes deep. Whereas in sadness, people have done some researches, very interesting researches, where they have seen, the expansion of the chest with different emotions. So it becomes more shallow in sadness, and in different kind of emotions, you see that fear is the most agitating one, to the breath. So please understand, this is very superficial manifestation of what havoc is happening in your pranic layer. How intensely when you get angry, have you seen how intensely the prana hits onto the head? After the anger, your full head becomes heavy, you get headache. Why? So much prana has hit up. It is like on a silent lake, you throw a very big stone. The anger gives that kind of a jolt to the pranic layer. It hits your head and it keeps hitting, and the pattern continues, as it goes, and we suppress this anger. We do not know how to resolve it, and it keeps coming. It raises our blood pressure. It generates migraine kind of headaches. And we just take a painkiller and think that everything will be all right. But the prana, slowly, by certain kind of emotions coming again and again. This is a law of physics. Wherever energy moves again and again, it develops an inertia and gets locked up. So prana starts getting locked up in the head. Now you are very sensitive. Loud noise, sunlight, anything generates headache in you. Why? Because your prana has developed a pattern now of accumulating excessively in the head. Just taking painkiller, you will be suppressing certain, physical channels for some time. But again, in the rebound, prana will come back with more force. And that's why these medications will work initially. And then after that, you will increase the dosage and they will have side effects, but you will suffer. So yogic understanding is, I will focus on the apana prana, because the region of that prana is from the navel region to the feet. So what I would do butterfly for headache. I would go for a walk barefoot and keep my attention on the touch of the air, on touch of the ground on my feet. I will do all, loosening practices of my leg. I will do Pavan Muktasana with my leg. I will do very gentle Kapalabhati to open the downward moving prana. So what I will do is, prana cannot be created nor be destroyed. Energy cannot be created nor be destroyed, but it can be channelized. It can be transformed from one direction to another. So in this way, all the yogic practices are done with a certain sense of awareness, so that the prana starts moving in that direction. Wherever the mind goes, prana goes there. Your emotions put prana in one direction, but you are not conscious of your emotion. You do not have control over them. Then you get into yoga and you consciously put your awareness on certain body parts and consciously direct your prana into some other directions. In this way, yoga looks at the disorders, and yoga tries to bring about a clinical, therapy using pranayama. So this, Bloch et al. Have done a very interesting research. They actually hypnotized a subject. And in hypnosis, they gave them a scenario where they had to imagine, bring into the surface of the mind the situation when they were very sad. In hypnosis, you can actually relive those moments. They have to imagine those moments. Then they had to imagine when they were in intense fear, then they had to imagine some erotic kind of a situation, anger, and then joy. So I would like to bring your attention here that the sadness and the joy. Can you see here that in the sadness, the inhalation pattern is little broken, and exhalation is quite blunt. Exhalation is short, inhalation is longer, and there are breaks in inhalation. Whereas the joy follows exact opposite pattern. The inhalation is short, exhalation is broken and expanded. So our yogic texts, if you properly see, they always talk about maintaining a ratio of 1:2 between inhalation and exhalation. You breathe in for 4 count, you breathe out for 8 count. They also recommend 1:4:2 because you want to bring kumbhaka, the expansion in between. Your consciousness should also expand. All kumbhakas are for expansion of consciousness. So the point here is, if my emotion can distort my breath, disturb my breath, can I use my breath to bring harmony into my emotion? Will a pranayama practice of joy? So if I do a right nostril breathing like this, breathe in 4 count, breathe out in 8 count. Why right is because our understanding is that a person who has depression is already inactive, inert, is gone low in energy. So that goes more with the Chandra dominance. So I want to activate him. So I want Surya Nadi to be more active in a depressed subject. And in that Surya Nadi, I want to give him a breathing which will give the impression to the mind that a person is in a state of a joy. And whether this kind of a breathing, either alternate nostril breathing or right nostril breathing, following this particular ratio, will it help in depression? Yes. So this is what we have found clinically in number of our trials, that initially doing Bhastrika, fast breathing practice, shaking up the pranic layer, and then settling it down by performing 1:2 ratio of breathing actually helps depression a lot. Now, how does these breathing actually work on the brain? What is the mechanism? So now concrete researches have happened where there are 2 connections. One is that you have this external nasal meatus, like that there is a inner nasal meatus, there are inner openings here inside. On the margin of that, there are glossopharyngeal nerve fibers that, are connected to different nuclei in the hypothalamus. And from the hypothalamus, they are able to regulate the autonomic nervous system. Another stimulation is when you are aware of the touch of the air through the olfactory bulb. The touch of the air can stimulate the olfactory bulb. And through that, you see the major brain areas. Insula is a main area that is associated with interoceptive awareness, my own awareness of my own system. All these yogic systems fundamentally bring more and more freedom by bringing more and more self-awareness. Because awareness means freedom. Awareness means mastery. When you are aware, nothing can hurt you. When you are not aware, then only all the problems emerge. So these are key areas, PFC, anterior cingulate cortex, prefrontal cortex are the area of inhibition. They inhibit the amygdala and the lower brain areas. Insula is the area of interoceptive awareness. All these areas have an activating effect by doing pranayama. There are other very interesting research that have happened. Slow, deep breathing, inspiration is to expiration ratio, which is low. You just reduce your breathing rate to less than 6 per minute. It has an effect of down regulation of the arousal, down regulating the HPA axis, reducing the adrenaline system activity. It also attenuates pain. I saw some researchers, they are working on pain perception, on cognition. These are very interesting things. Slow, deep breathing, can increase your pain threshold. It was also observed that locus ceruleus, is the area of the brain which is the center for release of adrenaline, epinephrine, norepinephrine, activating neurotransmitters. So it is very closely connected to pupil. So pupil, we know that when there is sympathetic activity, the pupil constrict. When there is parasympathetic activity, the sympathetic activity, pupil dilate. They want to see clearly. The parasympathetic, it constrict because it wants to just relax, not take more light. So what was observed was that during inhalation, pupillary dilatation was more. During exhalation, it was less. What does it say? That inhalation is increasing locus ceruleus adrenaline activity in the brain, whereas exhalation is reducing it. That is what we are prescribing. We are telling that prolong your exhalation. Similarly, I was talking about Bhastrika, cyclic hyperventilation followed by breath retention, 80 to 100 breaths per minute, activates sympathetic nervous system, attenuates aberrant immune responses. And this is upregulation of arousal. So whereas there are people, where we see that there is a lot of drowsiness. People want to stay alert in certain kind of jobs, in certain kind of sports. You require a lot of alertness. In those situations, just before the match, it is probably a good idea to do some Kapalabhati and Bhastrika and then go to the match as a sports person. Whereas when you have come down and you want to come out of the burnout, then probably it is a good idea to perform the slow pranayama. So before the match, fast pranayama. After the match, slow pranayama. In this way, you can do some kind of such interesting researches. There is also effect on cognition, also the electrical activity in the olfactory cortex in different areas of the brain through EEG. It was observed that these activities, what was observed only when the person was breathing through the mouth, through the nose. It did not happen when the person was breathing through the mouth. So what does it suggest? It suggests that there is a definite connection of the nostril breathing with the brain. You cannot say that I will do 6 breaths per minute through breathing through mouth. It will not have same impact. You have to do breathing through the nose with your awareness on the touch of the air in the nostrils. Then only these effects on the brain will happen. Similarly, it was observed that people's ability to recognize facial emotions and remembrance was more during inhalation than exhalation, which is logical also because inhalation is connected to locus coeruleus activity, which is connected to the sympathetic activation, and you want to remember faces when you are in danger. You want your cognition to function like that because you want to survive. So in this way, inhalation, prolonging the inhalation or focusing more on inhalation has this effect on cognition. Similarly, I was talking about the interoceptive sensitivity, where certain pranayamas bring the insula into place where you become more aware. And this, we should be cautious. Certain breathing practices should not be given in anxiety because they become more aware of their palpitation, their breathing, then they get panic attacks. So training in interoceptive, different mode of relating to this signal bring emotional stability. So people have used breathing, in a biofeedback mechanism way to bring about a conscious control over their autonomic arousal symptom, their palpitation, their breathing rate, so that they know which pattern of breathing gives me greatest calmness, and then use that in cases of panic anxiety. Similarly, the mood, the affective responses has been linked to brain rhythm, the breathing rhythms. Slow paced breathing for a sustained period of time has been shown to bring positive emotions, improve the mood. So therefore, research on pranayama has been increasing, and if you see, over the years, the number of hits for pranayama, there is a sustained interest which is increasing, and I can see, that it is going to grow more and more in the coming decade. So it is one of the frontiers area of research in human physiology now. So when I was talking about the effects, on the brain, on different things, I would like to draw your attention towards this non-invasive brain technology, which is called as the FNIRS, functional near infrared spectroscopy, a cap-like thing, which is also called as the poor man's MRI, which emits near infrared range of light, 600 to 900 nanometer. It goes 2 to 3 centimeter, into the brain, and then the reflected light is absorbed again. So the oxyhemoglobin and deoxyhemoglobin have differential absorption coefficient. So in this way, we get to know whether oxygenation is increasing or reducing in certain brain areas. This was my MD thesis work, where in healthy subjects and schizophrenia patients, I made them do this Kapalabhati pranayam. The question came to my mind because why did Sage name a practice which actually involves flapping of the abdomen, the name as Kapala Bhati? Kapala means the forehead, Bhati means shining. So why would they give such a name to a practice which has nothing to do with forehead, in practice at least? So therefore, I wanted to see the forehead means prefrontal cortex, what is happening. And what I observed was that during the practice of Kapalabhati, there is actually bilateral prefrontal oxygenation. And it was observed significantly more in healthy subjects as compared to schizophrenia patients, which are known to have hypofrontality. Similarly, in another domain of research where we looked at this concept from Mandukya Upanishad, A, U, and Ma. A means wakefulness, where the consciousness moves out. U means dream, or the thinking consciousness. And ma means the consciousness turned inwards. The Upanishad is very specific, prescribing these three sounds to it: a, u, and ma. In our day-to-day life also, we see that in certain situations we tend to produce these sounds unconsciously, subconsciously. It just comes. Can anybody tell me what are the situations in which you produce the sound a? Can anybody tell me?
Like surprise,
Yes.
surprised, not expecting.
Yes, Meenakshi ji, yes. Any other time you produce a sound?
Pain.
Yes. Very good, Raj.
Pain. Hello,
If I,
sir, at the time of pain.
yes. If I take a pin, and prick you, what will you say? Ouch. Ah. Or if a weightlifter wants to lift a weight, he tries to lift it, it is heavy, he says, ah.
Simply, we can't control anything, the ah sound comes.
Ah sound comes when there is a spurt. Your consciousness moves outward towards something, your attention goes towards something outside or on the body intensely in a spurt. Then the sound that comes is ah. When do you produce the sound in your day-to-day life? Without your awareness, when do you produce this sound? Humming sound. When does it come?
When you're not much interested in something.
When we are calm and composed.
Yes.
When we are calm and composed.
When calm and composed. See, if you are very hungry, you have not eaten for the whole day, and you get a very yummy pastry, chocolate pastry, and you love it, and you keep that cool pastry into your mouth, and you say, yum, amazing. So whenever you turn the consciousness inward or want to absorb something deeply within you, you listen somebody carefully, and you get an insight. I am absorbing, I'm taking things within me. So the inward movement of the consciousness happens with the sound. When a mother, makes a baby sleep, it is like this. It is not no, it is. So these sounds, we were wondering why these three sounds were given to these consciousness and what happens in the brain, if you just chant these sounds. So we actually were able to observe that chanting produced activation of the attention networks. When a person has to do something, he requires attentional network to come up, Whereas when you did, we found that with chanting, it was a middle kind of a situation, both activating and deactivating areas. Whereas when it was om or ma dominant, when the ma component was prolonged, we observed it was mostly deactivating. So in this way, our observation is that what is written in Mandukya Upanishad is actually correct. The consciousness can be governed in different directions using these particular sounds. Now, this has clinical application. A depression subject has more of ma. He is always inward. He is not able to open up. So he should chant ah. Whereas an anxiety person is already hyper vigilant. He is so aware of everything happening around him. He should do more Brahmari and try to relax. Researches also show that Brahmari is a very good stress buster. So in this way, there is a biological basis to what is written. This is what I was talking about. A simple lifestyle intervention to reduce heart rate, enhance immunity, and acts as a stress buster. So they were able to demonstrate changes in the HRV domains as that it was the most relaxing practice as compared to sleep, as compared to physical activity. Brahmari was most effective, just 10 minutes per day. 34 neuroimaging studies have been done, using various yoga practices where pranayama component also, in majority of these studies. It says that regular practice of yoga, the shortest duration where that has shown the change in the brain volume is 6 months. At least 6 months you should do. You will have an increase in the gray matter thickness. We know in Alzheimer's disease, the gray matter shrinks, the hippocampus shrinks. So here there is an evidence showing that you do yoga, the pranayama regularly, your gray matter is going to thicken. It means there is an indirect evidence that it will protect against dementias. Increased activation of PFCs, as I showed you, and functional default mode connectivity also becomes better. Shift from default to active mode, salient mode, and default mode. These kind of shift becomes more harmonious. At NIMHANS, during the COVID times, people were very much stressed under lockdown, and we felt a need for our patients, for people who come to NIMHANS. It is a major mental health institution in the country, and there was a telemanas service that we started. So for those stressed people, we predominantly, started with pranayama practices, and we prepared a 30-minute module where 20 minutes are just pranayama. Initial 5 minutes, some loosening, and last 5 minutes Uma chanting. And in between, we had 25 minutes of pranayama practice. And this research, taught us a lot of things, especially, one thing, that pranayama is a very, very wonderful tool that can go online. Easiest thing to do among the teleyoga practices is pranayama, So we published this in Asian Journal of Psychiatry in 94 subjects. We were able to assess their stress, well-being, and performance. And after 4 weeks, there was a significant reduction in their stress scores, and their well-being also improved. These sessions we started on 7th April 2020, the World Health Day. And the COVID was over. There were still, 70, 80 people who were with us, still continuing the session. And there was a demand, from general public who were attending, that these sessions should not stop. So therefore, it is continuously, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 7:30 a.m. Exactly, it is 6:50 a.m. that it starts to 7:30 a.m. that we have been conducting these sessions. And now also 50-60 people join every day. And we have a follow-up data of 3 years now, where we have observed that these practices, pranayama practices, in the beginning, they may just, help you calm down, feel relaxed, reduce your anxiety. But in the long run, they are actually life-transforming practices. People report that I have changed as a person. I do not become angry. I have developed so much patience in the situations in my life where earlier, I would panic. I would go mad in anger. I'm able to just go through it patiently. And people are amazed, how I have transformed as a person. So what my, knowledge that has come from this practice, I personally take sessions twice a week here, that even the personality is plastic. It can also change by yoga. So this is my favorite slide in all my presentation. I put this. So I was in Brazil. This is Brazil football team. The center forward, are the ones standing in front. They are the people who have to be aggressive, who have to attack and put the goal. Football is very popular in Kolkata, though I support Messi, so the Argentina. And here, that the people standing behind, they are the defense. They have to prevent the goal. So how I look at it is that I look at it as integration in medicine. The center forward is modern medicine, modern psychology, CBT. And the defense is all our traditional approaches: yoga, Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani, homeopathy, Indian psychology, Vedas, philosophy. All these things are our defense. And if we have to win the match, against the non-communicable diseases, against the mental health disorders, against, building resilience, we have to come together. So finally, I would like to conclude with the evidence so far that pranayama is a scientific practice. It is a scientific factor that has definite harmonizing effects on body and mind. But there is a need for high quality, multi-centric research in understanding further mechanisms and clinical applications. So I would take this moment to, show my gratitude to our collaborators who have helped us in the last 2 decades in doing all these researches that we were able to do. And of course, to my mentors, Professor D. Nagaraja, Professor B. N. Gangadhar, Dr. Shivrama Varampalli, our current head of the department, all the department of NIMHANS. And all this work is, not the work that I have done alone. It is the work of the whole team. So I thank my whole team, and I thank Swamiji, for giving me this wonderful opportunity. I hope I was able to ignite some interesting, thoughts in your mind about this field. Namaste.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. So we can take some questions. If there are any questions, audience can ask or write in the chat box. Can you read the question?
Thank you. Thank you for the feedback, Menka ji, Professor Shubhomay Ghosh. Thank you very much. I can
Sir,
see
a simple doubt. Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Sir, one who attained the Ananda Samapatti, at that time, how can he do pranayama?
There is no pranayama. The breath stops. So you are saying how to do that. Okay. So basically, with Ananta Samapatti, there is Shwasa Prashwasa Gati Vicheda. It happens with Ananta Samapatti because when consciousness expands, the breathing already gets into Vicheda. But Patanjali says that even then, in a very subtle way, the breath continues. So even if it has become subtle, you try to make it even more subtle, even more slow. That is pranayama. So definitely you are very correct that Ananta Samapatti will naturally lead to Shwasa Prashwasa Gati Vicheda. But Patanjali says that you have to calm down even further. And you can do that because with Ananta Samapatti still, there will be breath in a subtle way that will go on.
Is it like Kevala Kumbhaka at that time?
Kevala Kumbhaka, generally, we use Kevala Kumbhaka after doing Kapalabhati, that the breath stops for some time. But it again, after that, it again comes back, right? It again continues. So when Patanjali talks about it, he is talking about stretching the breath as long as possible and making it subtle. It is not to be done by force. With your regular practice and achieving deeper and deeper level of relaxation in the body, in the mind, pranayama should actually happen naturally. So you try to relax yourself more and more and stretch your breath. Do not do it forcefully. Within your comfortable limit, whatever you can do, you should do. But with practice, you will see that you will be able to stretch it longer and longer. In Hatha Yoga Pradipika, you see the ratio 1:4:2:1. That ratio, the holding time of the breath starts with 16, goes up to 36, 84. It keeps on expanding. In this way, Patanjali is talking about using the breath for reaching a further expansion of the consciousness. Definitely, Menakaji. This lifestyle is a preventive lifestyle. It can do wonders.
Hello, sir, I have a question.
Yes.
Let's say I had a tired day. I'm burnt out completely. So do you think that Anulom Vilom will help me revive my energies?
Yes, you have to, first thing that you should do is do an asana. And if you are very tired, which asana will you do?
Shavasana.
Yes, you lie down like a dead body. Just lie down. Then just observe your breath. Once you have settled down in your asana, just observe your breath. Now do only one simple thing. Keep your one hand on your abdomen. As you breathe in, buzz your abdomen up. As you breathe out, sink it in. Synchronize your breathing with your abdomen. After a few breaths, make your breathing in and breathing out ratio as 1:2.
Okay.
Continue doing that. And then, you slowly sit down and do that 1:2 breathing for some 20, 21 breaths. After that, you sit down, become stable, and then do Anulom Vilom for say 12 cycles, and then do Bhramari for 5 minutes. And you will see a lot of rejuvenation. Your whole system, the switch will change into a deep relaxing mode.
Okay. Thank you.
Bhramari should be very gentle. People do Bhramari like this. No, it has HRV, it increases it. The sympathetic activity. It should be like almost nobody else should be able to hear the sound. Only you should hear. Touching the tongue to the upper palate, you can focus it to the brain. It is done in a way that as if you are withdrawing from everything. You are doing it in a non-doership way. There is no active force in doing Brahmari. It is done as if you want to just withdraw from everything. Go with it. Very, very subtle, very gentle humming. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, sir, I have a question, sir.
Yes, yes, please. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I was saying,
Oh,
very
Swami,
nice talk.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
So excellent talk, and really there is so many more things. As we hear, our appetite for hearing increases. But one thing I really found a lot of interesting insights you gave. But one thing intrigued me because you were at the integrative medicine department. You were first diagnosing a patient in terms of his imbalance or deformities in the pranic body, in the mental state and all that. Then you are devising a protocol and then administering and making this thing. So this is one part. But what I really liked is when you said that when there is a disease, there is I focus on that part of the pranic channel or that part of the 5 pranas, whatever is active in that region. And you give the example of the apana, the lower region, and then make the physical and other exercises on that part to make it recover. So that is for the case of when there is a irregularity or when there is some kind of defect. Now, what I thought from this saying of yours, I thought it's a sort of extended thinking. So when we do a set of asanas, that is the precondition for doing the pranayama, are there ways to decipher that certain pranic channels are getting activated or certain pranic channels are getting more and more enriched by those set of asanas? So sort of a mapping of the set of asanas to the particular pranic channel which is getting enriched, activated or enhanced.
Yes. So this is something, which we have also been thinking about, and we have a device, it is a Russian device. You might have heard about it. It is called as the gas discharge visualization, GDV, or BioWell. So through the fingers, this is developed by a Russian scientist Korotkov. Through the finger, you are able to, map the electrons that are released from the surface of the skin. They are put on a charged glass plate that has high voltage and low current. So what happens is when these electrons are drawn onto the surface around the fingers, it gives an indicator of the overall different areas of the body, what are the way in which the pranic energy is flowing. So what he says is that according to the acupuncture meridians, different areas in the finger are connected to different organs. So from where what electrons are getting released is a marker of the pranic energy in that particular area. So this particular device actually gives an image, of the whole body along with the energy, and it also quantitatively in joules or some units, it also describes how many it is there, and there are various interesting markers in that. We used in a research in diabetes, and actually, on various kind of organs, especially kidney, liver, we were able to see pancreas, that there were lesser movement of the prana in these particular disorders in using this device. So of course, it is very preliminary. We have to do a lot of validation, standardization, but such devices are coming up, because you cannot assess prana by using the devices that usually we use in the modern physiology, because all these devices are based on the Newtonian laws. But here we need devices that can go in a quantum way. It is not only a unidirectional thing. You need a device that can measure such very subtle changes. So such more devices need to be explored, need to be developed, now the most closely that we have got to it is performing EEG or ECG, HRV, but electrical activity.
Yeah, that was a very interesting study and quite thrilling also. Like, how could they do that mapping of the pranic channel?
Yeah, but
And
it
I
has
also
200 publications. That device has 200 publications. It is BioWell 2.0. You can have a look at it. Means so far our observation has been that it is catching something, definitely. But we have to do more research and see exactly what it is doing.
Does this device,
GD.
yes, what it is quantifying, is it relating somehow to the thermal imaging method?
Very, very interesting question. So we actually have a thermal camera also. And in these diabetic subjects, we did their thermal imaging as well as their GDV, but we did not observe any correlation between them.
Okay.
I think as of now, the closest we can get is measure the brain waves.
Yeah, brain waves, electrical activity in the muscles or such things.
Closest we can get to the measurement of the pranic body in a non-invasive way.
And there is a need to develop such devices which can go a little more subtle. So this is something that GDV we are trying to explore whether it may not be exactly the way the developer described, but through data, something you may get, which may be useful. So what we have observed is definitely it can differentiate a person who is in a stressful situation than a person who is sitting calm. The pattern becomes more harmonious. That much it comes.
So I have a question. When you deal with mental health issues, do you get the entire family involved in pranayama practice?
Menakaji, this is a very good question, especially when it comes to mental health. Most of the time, the patient doesn't need, his relative needs pranayama. So we have active family therapy unit, and we first talk to the patient, and in most of the time, it percolates down to the family, and then we definitely involve family, and we encourage both, the family members doing yoga together. We actively encourage that, and we have developed a program for caregivers also. We have done randomized control trial on caregivers also, and when the caregivers improve, the patient also improves, and the patient improves caregiver. That kind of relationship is there.
Thank you.
Another one question is there.
Sir,
another one question one participant asked, can I do pranayama during illness?
Oh, pranayama during illness can be done, but you have to be careful in what kind of pranayama you want to do, especially when you have, say, fever or such thing, then it is better to, only do some relaxing pranayama and not do the activating fast pranayama, because it will further activate your sympathetic nervous system and drain more energy. So what you should do is definitely Nadi Shuddhi pranayama, Brahmari. These are two pranayamas where there is no contraindication. Anybody can do. In all situations. Stage 4 cancer patients have done and found benefit also, improvement in quality of life also. So you can do pranayama. You just have to do within your comfortable limits. Do not over exert, and do only the relaxing slow pranayamas. Do not do kumbhakas. Do not hold your breath. But follow the thing that you first settle down in asana, and then regulate your breath, and then do it.
So, sir, I have one last question. If you are aware of any studies on the neurophysiology of kumbhaka, and if you can share with us, that will be good.
Okay. One study, I think Nivedita et al. They did in SVSR, observing the I think it is some blood flow, the cerebral blood flow using various kumbhakas. So that particular study, I think they observed differential effects. The antar kumbhaka, when you hold the breath inside, activates the sympathetic nervous system, whereas the bahya kumbhaka has a calming thing. That naturally also we know. During inspiration, the blood pressure, everything goes up. When you hold the breath in inspiration, it increases more. Whereas in exhalation, when you hold it, the heart rate, breathing rate, everything comes down. So Bahya Kumbhaka is more calming. Patanjali also says, Prachardan Vidharanabhya. Exhale and hold. That is more calming than inhaling and holding.
Correct.
That is what I can say.
Swamiji also mentioned Swami Vivekananda in Raja Yoga
Okay.
that he actually, the Raja Yoga book is an output of his lessons that he did in London. And there are 4 lessons he taught before going to the details. That is the first steps. In that, he mentions that Bahya Kumbhaka is better, is less, he calls it less dangerous than Antar Kumbhaka.
See, stroke patients, patients with blood pressure, they should not do Antar Kumbhaka. Heart patients. So this is the finally, Swamiji, I would like to request the audience here, if you want to do yoga, which is simple and effective to reduce your stress, you are welcome to log in into our online sessions, which are free. Anybody can just put the Zoom ID and you may not even keep the camera on, just log in and do with us. Every Tuesday, we also have brief philosophical discussion from yogic text. We interact with people, and if you have any question, we can discuss. So in the last, I will once again just put this Zoom ID here. You can take a photo. Just put this ID and the password, and that's it.
So we'll just note it.
Yes, yes, yes.
This is a very good initiative.
Yes, yes, Swami.
Yeah, and as you rightly said that this particular part of yoga can be done remotely, without having to sit near the teacher, and all that can be done. So our technology is very, very developed now. We can really do these things from our.
It's a chair-based practice, the most feasible practice.
Good, wonderful. So many good things we came to know. So many new developments and insights. It was really good to have you in this webinar.
Yes, Swamiji, and this is our book that we have published last year.
Yes,
we compiled all the work that we have done so far, and this book also has all the modules for anxiety, depression, schizophrenia, all the disorders that we have validated the module. So it is also available in Amazon Kindle and hard copy or soft copy in Amazon. Thank you so much.
There is also one book, Yoga for Depression. I think the second edition has come out.
Yes, yes.
Thank you so much. So really, no words can thank you enough for this wonderful talk. And also thanks to all the audience. Tomorrow is the last day of this webinar series. Tomorrow, the talk will be by Swami Sarvottamananda, Vice Chancellor of this university, and he will give his insights on the yogic practice of pranayama. Thank you.
Thank you. It is always a pleasure to meet you